bringing to you. Every time we turn live, man, you know it's the truth. Every after show, moving down. This the time to move around. No Gimmicks podcast is going down. Every night, every time in the ring. This is the time for the No Gimmicks. No, we doing our thing. What's your state of mind? State of mind. Moving down a statement when we take the line. This is exactly wrestling the state design. When you see Stone Cold like me, with the stunner in the world, exactly, man, what we bring. Every night we move like Brock Lesnar. The F5, No Gimmicks. We take you to your limit. What's the feeling? When we live in the air, you know we on. This the time. Guarantee we move. You know how we respond. The state is mine. The state design when we feel it. Moving down, what's the healing? No Gimmicks is the feeling.
Yo, what is up, people? Welcome back to the No Gimmicks podcast here on the DFPN. I am your host, Bred Like a King, made as Kelvin Cayley. We have a good interview lined up for you guys tonight. I know you hear me talk about MPX or Metroplex Wrestling a lot. I go to a lot of these shows. You've seen a lot of these guys on the show. The champion now, my guy Demo Diamond. He's at Metroplex Wrestling. Kari Jai Wright, who we've had on the show, they were in the main event this past weekend. They put on a great card this past weekend. Kaimi has been on the show. We've had a lot of people that have come through MPX. Pretty much, if they've come on No Gimmicks, I've met them at an MPX show. So I wanted to dive a little bit into the promotion. We have somebody who has hands on the promotion. One of the guys who was in the foundation of what Metroplex Wrestling is. And I wanted to bring him on the show just to talk all things. They have a show coming up this Saturday, Ascension, which is pretty much the fallout from last week. They are a weekly promotion. So if you're in the Bedford area of Bedford, Texas, do yourselves a favor. If you have Saturday night, go check out these shows. It is a family atmosphere, but enough about me rambling about it. Let's bring the guy in himself. He is the choice, Mr. Matt Andrews. Welcome to No Gimmicks, sir. How you doing? Uh-oh. Don't know what happened there.
Weird. I thought there was going to be two of me there. Fantastic way to start the podcast. Obviously, it can only go up from here.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you. I wanted to start with the atmosphere over at Metro Wrestling. Because it definitely gives me a family vibe when I go to these shows. Speak to that and how that crowd has become so loyal. How did you grow such a loyal fan base?
I think Metroplex Wrestling, and they've been in that building for a good long while now, right? I think Metroplex Wrestling started at a time when there was not a whole lot of options for independent wrestling shows. I couldn't even, this was 15 years ago when MPX started, and we took it from Stephen Kirby's backyard into one of the Metroplex gyms that was in a non-air conditioned garage setting in a gym that sucked, having to move gym equipment back and forth so that we could fit in chairs. Into a place that right now, it doesn't look like something much on the outside. It's not a massive event arena bar, and it doesn't have quite the most incredible sound system, although it's a lot better than some of the bigger venues that I've heard. But I think the fact that it came from such a humble beginning from a bunch of guys and us original 8 or 10 people who maybe didn't have a business being in the professional wrestling world, right? I think our humble beginnings helped kind of keep the fan base that we've had since we started the business 15 years ago. And now to see how many options people have, that then people still come to see us on a Saturday night, it's truly encouraging. Like I said, I really do feel like the fact that we are kind of, the us at our core are really everyday guys. We are larger than life when we're on the stage, but we're also people that have this dream, have the dream of doing this, right? We have this dream of like, if as long as we can get in the ring and perform in front of people, we'll be in great shape. We'll enjoy everything that we're doing, and I think that I think that helps lend to kind of this family atmosphere where we kind of know all of our regulars. We have regulars, and it's great. Running on a weekly basis helps a ton. I know I mentioned that there's a whole lot of options in Texas, in DFW, but to my knowledge, MPX is the only weekly running wrestling show. And I think being able to keep up with storylines as well kind of helps people come back. It's like tuning in every week to Monday Night Raw or to Dynamite or something. You tune in every week because you're following the storylines. Well, you're going to come to this show every week because you follow the storylines. You want to know what's next.
You touched on something that I was going to go into, and that was the storytelling. You guys do phenomenal storytelling,
Yeah.
phenomenal. Where who's doing that?
Well,
Wrestlers, or is it a
that's.
collaborative effort?
I think it's a huge collaborative effort. We were running under and I don't know how uh, inside baseball we want to get. You know, but we were running under the booking of Richard Hill for
Hmm.
a good long while. Actually, I think since we got into this building, we've been running under Richard Hill, and he's got a great mind for storytelling. Great mind for putting together feuds and putting together people that he knows are going to work well together and getting kind of the best drama out of those. He understands characters and where they can go, where they should go. He's recently passed on that booking to other people. And again, I don't know how inside baseball we want to get. If you want me to tell you, I can tell you. But
You don't have
um,
to.
yeah, and I think this group of people that's booking the show now also has a keen idea, and I think that's because they've been with the company for such an incredibly long time. They have a good eye for not just characters and where the characters go and stories and where storylines can go. They've been huge wrestling fans, but also they know the crowd. And I think one of the big things and one of the things that I think is lost with bookers nowadays is knowing your crowd. I attended a convention sometime back, a comic convention sometime back, and there was a wrestling show there. And you got to understand, if you're at a convention where there's a bunch of people passing by and you are not the main attraction, be there, they're not necessarily going to stick around for a bunch of
Mhm,
storylines. They have no idea what's going on. They want
mhm.
to see the flashy, the punchy. They want to see people diving. They want to see the loud, the brash, the flashiness, right? Um, they're not there. They're not going to stick around if you're going to put somebody in a rest hold for 20 seconds and talk about how the last show you guys were at a month ago that you beat this person. Nobody in that crowd cares. They have no idea what's going on. um, you want to attract them. Meanwhile, at MPX or at any other show that runs on a fairly regular basis, where people whose attention spans can zone in on that kind of stuff, they know what's going on.
Right.
They remember who they cheered for the last time. They remember, oh, that guy stabbed that other guy in the back. I wonder what's going to happen. And I think that gets lost if you go too long between shows.
Yeah, that's a good point. Does the crowd kind of help you determine like which way your characters are gonna go?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes true for all of professional wrestling, right? I mean, one of the big things that we're taught in the ring from training anyway is to listen to the crowd. And I don't just mean like, whenever they say one more time, you go one more time, right? Um, but it's always a fun spot. You listen to the crowd and to hear what they're responding to. If they are really into you taking control of a match, then you listen to it and maybe you call an audible on the fly and say, hey, they're really digging this. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing this. Let's keep pushing this. Same thing. And I think Paulie Paparazzi is a prime example at MPX of listening to the crowd and giving the crowd what they want. You don't always have to uh, pull a surprise out of thin air or something like that. You don't always
Right.
have to shock people. You don't always have to go with the unpopular decision. Sometimes, if you give the people what they want, the people will like it. But as far as listening to the crowd, right? I think Paulie Paparazzi is a prime example of that at MPX.
Yep.
I don't know if you were there when he won the Addicts Championship in the Crucible match, but as much as that crowd wanted to see Mr. Legs retain that championship, I think when you saw the weeks and weeks of bullying that Mikey B was doing to Paulie, when Paulie finally turned and kicked Mikey, the crowd completely erupted. And they were hanging on every single move that happened right after that turn. And the pop that he got when he won that championship is incredible.
Yes.
It's absolutely incredible. So I think listening to the crowd and again giving them what they want, it's not rocket science. You give the people what they want and they'll like it.
Yeah. You just said a name, Paulie. Three guys that really I've watched since I've gotten into MPX.
Yeah.
Three guys, and that's Paulie Paparazzi, Demo Diamond, and Mr. Legs. All three of the rise of those three guys has been incredible. It's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I think it's all for different reasons too, right? I mean, Mr. Legs is completely the I guess the one that's there for the kids, right? Like he gets the kids going. He's the mask guy. It's a goofy freaking character, right? I think we can all acknowledge that.
I love that guy. I love it. I love it.
It's also super unique, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a guy that comes out with freaking mannequin legs. That's weird as hell. And if you're going to stumble into that, you're going to go, what the heck? But again, earlier to the point of being at a comic convention, right? And with a bunch of people who are just passing by and not necessarily invested in what's going on. If you stop in the ring and you see a guy that's making an entrance with a jacket that has a whole lot of freaking mannequin legs on it, and he's waving legs in the air, you're going to go, I might stop and see what's going on with that.
What is that? Because that's what I thought when I first saw him. I was like, what is that?
Right.
And the more I paid attention to it, the more interesting it got to me. It was like, I can't explain it. It was something that hooked me immediately because he was doing that.
And the good thing and the great thing is like he can go, right?
Yes.
That's the other good thing, right? It does no good to have a good gimmick if you can't actually go in the ring, because then people stop losing interest. That brings us to Demo Diamond, right? And this is another person that I think fans can really get behind, and I think they can mostly because here's a fresh young kid, the new face of wrestling in Texas, right? And he is not just with Jamie Aller next to him, and now with that he's got a rocket strapped to his back, but here's a guy that got the looks. He's got the charisma. He knows how to interact with the crowd. He's got the size. He's a believable presence in the ring. And also he can go, right? We were just talking about legs being able to go. He can go in the ring. And I think people in the crowd can respect that. And you can see Demo, like he's gotten on TV already with, I believe in TNA, and he's down in ROW now in Booker's place. And he's been on their program as well. Sky's the limit for him. And I'm proud to see what he does, because I know he hasn't been in the business for too long, but he's also, he's rising, and he's definitely somebody to watch out for.
Most definitely. Yeah, you have a lady on your roster. It's hard for me to not call her Angel Blue because that's how I know her.
Right.
But Angela, talk to me about her rise. And first of all, the MPX Women's Championship is a fairly new. Talk about that and how that set the stage for ladies like her.
Yeah, absolutely. MPX has been around for ages, right? 15 years next year. And it hasn't had a women's championship. And that got introduced earlier this year. It was actually one of the shows I was attending as a fan before I got back into MPX as their ring announcer. And it was a great one-night tournament. Angela Armstrong, or as she was known back then, Angel Blue, was in there. Shay Carmichael was in it, and Erica Torres as well. Baby D was in that tournament as well. I believe she kind of came out of retirement, trying to make history as being the person to come back and win that championship. And Erica Torres ended up winning it and being the first women's champion, which again, all the accolades and all the flowers to her. Again, Erica Torres is a woman that, you see her social media posts. She knows how to talk a good game. She knows how to, call her opponents out, and she knows how to have that charisma. But when that music comes on and she comes out, she's a silent killer. And it's really intimidating to stand across the ring from somebody, even doing her entrance, just watching her come into the ring. There's no fanfare. There's no flash. There's one pose and that's it. But she comes, she walks to the ring, eyes focused on the ring, even if there's no opponent. And it's kind of intimidating. So it's a good presence to put the title on somebody like her. And then Hilda had it for a spell, and then Erica Torres got it back from her. Again, great representatives, and putting the belt on Hilda, again, listening to what the fans want to, right? Hilda, crowd favorite, somebody who really knows how to interact with the MPX addicts. And then putting it back on Erica just to continue that storyline and make a fight between two top women over the division's top prize. And then you have Angela Armstrong, who, again, as you alluded to, her as Angel Blue. And that's what she was for pretty much her whole career. She started back in 2008. She was Electra Blue and then changed her name to Angel Blue and kind of stayed that way just up until this year. And I think all of that just stemmed from needing to branch out, needing to reinvent. Angela had just come back from major neck surgery. She was out of the game for 4 years and came back as Angel Blue, was able to convince herself and everybody else that, hey, I can do this as Angel Blue. And then as that keeps going on, you start realizing, hey, I got to change things up. And sometimes you don't want to portray somebody that you don't feel connected to anymore. And I think Angela lost the connection to Angel Blue. And I think a lot of the MPX addicts lost their connection to Angel Blue. I think they saw the same person they'd seen for so many years. And so by reinventing herself under under the name of Angela Armstrong and becoming the Alaskan Assassin, somebody who's a little bit more fun and a little more excitable and man, how do I say it? Like high energy, right?
Yeah.
And but still able to connect with the fans and be herself. And I think that's where the addicts are really connecting with her, because Angela is able to be herself and she can be one of the people. And I think that's what people really love about her. And I think it's a good choice to have her as the champion.
Absolutely.
Love to see her defended a little bit more, but obviously she's a busy woman. She's booked in a lot of different places. And so, hopefully we see a little bit more of her coming up in the next few weeks. But I think Angela's a good, strong face. She's a veteran of Texas women's wrestling. I'm going to continue on just a little bit more about Angela, but for me, when I started, I know we had, there was Claudia, there was Jessie James, there were a handful of other women wrestlers in Texas, and it wasn't like it is now, where there's so many options. Morgan, Mercy, Nova, Phoenix, Shay, Carmichael, Hilda, Erica Torres, Alejandra. I mean, there's so many people, so many women wrestlers in Dallas now. But when I broke in, 15 years ago, it was Claudia, it was Jessie James, it was Athena, obviously, and it was Angel Blue. And for me, watching Angel Blue in that ring, like, that's who I latched onto. I identified with her, and I appreciated the way she could work the crowd. I appreciated the way she interacted with people, because that's something that I think is a lost art. I think people do the moves to get the crowd cheering. I think people, tell their stories in the ring. They kind of get lost in the moment, right? They kind of get lost in the fact that in the cinema of it, but they also got to realize that there's a live audience, and a live audience that's interactive. I'm a theater graduate, and I understand working in front of a live audience, but it's different from theater in the fact that, like, they're interactive. And they'll give you what you can do with certain things. And if you can play around with them, and then you can trigger their emotions by talking to them instead of just working with what you got in the ring, that brings your character up a whole nother dimension. And that's what Angela's always been able to do. And so for the longest time, Angela Armstrong, Angel Blue, was women's wrestling in Texas to me.
You know what? I have to agree with that, because the first time I saw her, like, when I go to wrestling shows, I go to cheer, boo. I'm a fan, but I try to be invisible. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, the interacting stuff's cool, but she's the first person that I've ever seen just like single me out. And I found that fascinating. Like, how did you look at me and notice and then play off of me? And it's me trying to be like not seen,
Yeah.
and I'm seen, so now I have to react. And it's like,
Right.
come on. But she drew the emotion out of me, and that's what made me a fan of hers, is
Yeah.
that she actually got me to react to her. And I was mesmerized by that. And I became a fan of hers because of that. And you're absolutely right. The one thing that gets me, like, that's my fandom too. She can work a room
Yeah.
easily. Like, have people hate her from beginning to end, have
Hmm.
people like her from beginning to end. She knows how to manipulate people, and it's awesome to see. It
Yeah.
really is awesome, because at a certain point, it goes from you being a fan
Yeah.
attending the show to being whatever she wants you to be.
Right.
And it's
Absolutely.
awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. I think you brought up a good point about yourself here. You're the fan that's trying to be invisible. You're not trying to be seen. And I think
Right.
it's low-hanging fruit as a wrestler to play to the audience members that are there for themselves, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you know the fans that are in there that are making the chants so that the rest of the audience can laugh at them.
Yeah.
And it's easy. It's easy to play to that person because you're already giving them what they want. And so,
Right.
there's that. But it's a completely different thing to single somebody out who's just there to watch the show, right? To
Right.
enjoy the show, to just kind of enjoy the atmosphere. But then you bring them into it when they weren't necessarily wanting to be, and that draws them in a completely different level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the it's one of the first times I felt that. Like, as a fan, I was
Mhm.
just like, how did she do that? Like, afterwards, I was just like, how did she do that? Because
Yeah.
I wasn't really trying to interact with her. I was just like, I was just there. And it
Yeah.
was just like,
And then all of a sudden
how
you're
am
there.
I? Yeah, now all of a sudden I'm like a focal point of hers. And she's
Yeah.
just like after me. And I'm like, stop. And it's like
Stop, but also don't.
yeah, also don't, but
Right.
and that's what made me a fan of hers, really, really, truly. And she's a damn good wrestler. Damn good
Yes, she
wrestler.
is. Very much so.
So, but I wanted to shift gears. Actually, let's go about you. What made you try out wrestling? What
Oh,
made you
God.
say wrestling, this is me?
All right. So do we want to go like back to being a wrestling fan or back to just starting with MPX?
Actually, yeah, let's go back to being a wrestling fan.
Oh boy.
What was the moment you were like, I'm a fan? And then
All
what
right.
was the moment you said, I want to do this?
So, um, I was 9 years old, and in my parents' bedroom, channel surfing. It was a Saturday morning, and I came across on
Mm,
the USA Network WWF Superstars, and the main event of that particular show that morning was the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario in tow versus the One Two
wow.
Three Kid, and this was the day before the WWF Championship match against Big Daddy Cool Diesel at WWF In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies.
Yeah.
That match, for whatever reason, and I got to see it from beginning to end. So I got to see Shawn Michaels' entrance. I got to see the One Two Three Kids entrance. That, as a 9 year old boy, I was like, that. That's cool. I want to do that. Not even I want to do that. I want to be invested in that. And as a kid, it's all still real to you, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I remember my dad and my parents were not fans of me watching that. And my dad would try to put the argument forth. It's fake. It's fake. They're stomping when they hit. And I remember I was 9 years old. I was watching an Owen Hart match and I broke down into tears. I was so mad at him because I was like, stop calling it fake. He's really hitting him. He really is. He's really in pain. It's such a vivid memory to me that I was in tears arguing to my dad that they were really hurting each other. And I believed it for so long. And it's not like it's not ballet in there. We are actually
No.
hitting, we are actually hurting. But
Yeah.
now that you know things, you can peel the curtain back a little bit nowadays with social media. I mean, you're a little smartened up into it. Um, but for me, if I can go to a show and go back to being 9 years old and completely get lost in the moment and forget and understand that it's still real to me, that's what hooks me every time. And that's what I look forward to at shows. As far as MPX goes, it was a Craigslist ad. It was a Craigslist ad, and here I am coming out of college, a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater arts, looking for an acting job. And if you go into my 8th grade yearbook, you will see that what I want to be when I grow up is a public address announcer for the Texas Rangers. So I wanted to be the guy that said, playing second base, Ian Kinsler. I wanted to be Chuck Morgan so bad, so bad. And so I'm scanning Craigslist looking for the acting jobs, and I see this post looking for a ring announcer for an independent wrestling company. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So I answered the email. I sent it in. There was a little questionnaire to fill out, and I put all that down. I said that ideally I'd like to be a ring announcer, but I can also be a manager, a referee. I'd love to try to be an in-ring talent. And then I said, but I definitely don't have the build to be in the ring. But I have a good mind for storylines, for angles, all of that. I know insider terms. And Stephen Kirby wrote back to me and he said, Matt, the whole idea and the whole purpose of MPX is that none of us are necessarily the perfect fit for the wrestling world. We're just a bunch of guys that wanted to do something that we loved. We love the art of professional wrestling. We want to learn the art of professional wrestling, and we'd really like to do it. So if you're on board with that, then come on in. I was like, great. That sounds wonderful.
Awesome.
And so I got to Kirby's house. There was a ring in the backyard, and I was like, hey, I'm here to try out to be the ring announcer. And I just sat there and observed, and they got in and they were doing bumps. They were running ropes. And I noticed that the way that they were falling, the way that they were bumping was a lot of when I took martial arts back when I was a kid. And, you learn to fall. That's what you do in martial arts. You learn to take falls and you learn to get thrown. And I was like, I think I can do that. Can I try that? And of course they were like, yeah, sure. Come on in, see what you can do. And I got it right off of the bat. Like I didn't have any of that like hesitation, didn't have any of that. Oh, you rolled instead. Oh, you're using your arms. No, I hit that mat. And I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. And I did not want to be a ring announcer anymore at that point. I was like, I'm
hooked.
I need to be in this ring. I need to do this.
Yeah.
And that's the story. And I was hooked.
Wow.
Did it for 5 years, was able to be MPX champion, MPX tag team champion as well. And then I retired 5 years after I started because I realized the wave of people was kind of surpassing me. I did it for other reasons too. There were family reasons. There were, you want to start a family, you realize you probably shouldn't be doing something where you'd be breaking legs, breaking arms, potentially. Not saying I would, but you want to be safe. And if you're going to start a family, you got to be in one piece, that kind of thing. And then I also realized that here's a whole bunch of people that are coming into this, that their goal is to be on TV. Their goal, and they're way better than I am. Way better. I'll point to Izzy James right off the bat. And knowing that I was taking ring time, not necessarily away from Izzy because he'd get it booked on the show anyway. But I thought of people like Izzy and people that wanted to get booked at MPX because they realized that MPX was something big. And I was like, I shouldn't be doing this anymore. My goal isn't to be on TV. My goal is to just roll around in here and enjoy this and do this as a hobby. And there's other people here that are taking this way more seriously than I am, and they need the ring time more than I do. So that's when I stepped away from the business.
That's a really honest answer. And look at yourself to be real enough with yourself to say that. That's admirable, actually.
Yeah,
Very
it's hard.
admirable.
It was really hard. Still hard. I would like to get back in there. I think my goals have changed now. But of course, as a ring announcer, I mean, the opportunities on the national stage are way few and far between. But I'd like to still do that. But one of the goals I do have probably not going to happen this year, but one of my goals for 2025 is to get back in the ring, to actually do something, not necessarily full time. I'd like to have one meaningful storyline, something that actually matters. I don't just want to go in there as a nostalgia act or whatever, or one off. And I want to have something that people can sink their teeth into and give them something to follow and make something super memorable.
Excellent. What actually brought you back?
My son.
Was it
my son? So I know I switched locations from when we started the show and whatnot, but there were paintings up there. And my son is huge into art. He's very big into reading. He's big into drawing. And he's big into comic book characters, which is a love that he and I have. He likes Spider-Man, same as I do. And I wanted to share another passion with him. I had brought him to an AEW show when it came through the Colwell Center, which it's coming back to here in a little bit. And I had also brought him to the WWE Money in the Bank event where John Cena returned for Roman Reigns. That huge pop, right? He got to see that. But then I brought him to MPX, and I brought him and I showed him the when we got there, it was the Addicts Championship, and it was the one that Dexter Hardaway had smashed with a hammer, and it was broken, but it was displayed up at the front.
Yeah.
And I brought him to the first MPX show, and I pointed at that belt, and I said, that's the belt I held. That was me. I was the champion. And after that night, all he wanted to do is, I want to go to MPX. Can we go to wrestling? When can we go to wrestling again? When can we go to wrestling again? That's when I made the decision to start training to get back into the ring. That's also the moment that I realized, like, I have this thing to bond with my son over, and I can't get that. I get him on every weekend, pretty much, just about every weekend. And that's our thing. That's our thing now. And when we got the opportunity to go to Destiny, we got to help set up the Epic. We got there early enough in the day. There were chairs, and I told my son, and he was like asking about wanting to get in there and do it. I was like, look, if you're going to, you got to start paying your dues. And sure enough, there's pictures of him grabbing chairs, setting them up, putting them where they needed to go, right? But it was at Destiny that we were setting up, and I kind of turned to Matt Palmer, and I was like, hey, Matt, what else do you need from me tonight? What else do you need? How else can I help you out? How else can I make the show a success? And he just goes, I don't know, man. Do you want to ring announce tonight? I was like, yeah, I will absolutely ring announce. And he's like, do you have a suit? And I said, I do not have a suit on me right now, but I will go run and get one. And so I went and I spent $250 at Target, got a suit coat and pants and shoes and a belt and a shirt, and drove myself right back to that place and got in, did the ring announcing, and then I just kind of kept showing up every Saturday with a suit and said, I'm here, I'll do it. And now I am.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
It's a ridiculously cool story to tell, honestly. Now that I think about it and stuff. And
I was at that Destiny show, and speak on the Epic. How do you guys get that? Because that's a unique spot.
It is,
but it works so well.
Yeah, it does
as a venue.
It's great, and the people at the Epic were fantastic. I'm not privy to the behind the scenes talk of how to book the place for events and whatnot, but I have been on an event sales team. I used to work at a hotel and was very privy to how you sell certain spaces and whatnot. And I'm guessing they kind of figured that the Epic is a multi-use recreational facility with a lot of athletes. And so something like MPX is going to be very, it's a good investment. It's a good place to showcase that kind of stuff. So, yeah, great. I love the Epic. I love going to it.
I love it too. I've been since they've been doing shows there. I've been going there. And another thing that you guys help out with is Pro Wrestling Revolver. And how does that help your relationship with those types of companies? Because I know when AEW comes into town, I know MPX has like certain talent that when they did this Arlington residency, I saw a lot of MPX talent in ROH and on Dynamite. So how does that help your relationship with those companies?
Yeah, if you think about pro wrestling in the indie world as kind of minor league ball and major league ball, right? You've got AEW, TNA, ROH, WWE. That's your major leagues, right?
Right.
Then you've got places like Pro Wrestling Revolver, ROW. What else? GCW, places like that
Yep.
that people would know all across the nation. That's your AAA ball. That's almost like the next step up, right? And then you've got you got MPX, and I think that's your AA ball. And so when the AA team gets to play a little with the AAA team, the major leagues start to notice a little bit. And I think one of the great things about partnerships with Revolver is our guys, the MPX guys, actually get to be in the ring and do that.
Right.
You see them on TNA or WWE, and they're just extras, right? They're the security guards, or Barrett Brown's been posting clips of when he just got tossed around by Braun Strowman, and that's what it is. That's what they are, right?
Yep.
But places like Revolver, when they swing through town, they allow the MPX guys to actually get in the ring and showcase their talent and what they can do. So I think it works
Right.
as a great little, it's a showcase for them to kind of get noticed by bigger up and coming places.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in Texas as well, with reality of wrestling and
Mm-hmm.
how Booker's his presence alone just makes that it's a good look when you see guys go to places like that, or
Yeah.
even with the Dustin Rhodes Academy. It just works. Question:
Answer.
are we going to see, or is there a possibility of a Dojo Wars featuring MPX?
So I think that's an interesting concept, right? Because
Yep.
you take a person, you take a wrestler, and you follow them around to different organizations and different places, right? And it's like each of these promotions, it's like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Every single one of these promotions is their own separate entity.
Yep.
You take Angela, right? She is cheered and beloved. She's a woman for the kids. The kids love her at MPX, right? They cheer
Yep.
her. They were celebrating. You take her out of that and you put her at SCP over in Lubbock, and well, actually no, they still love her over there, but you put her in hot pro wrestling down in Waco. They
Yep.
hate her. They hate her. They get the chance if Waco doesn't like you, but it all exists in its own bubble. I think it'd be very difficult to be able to pull off. And I only say that from a storyline perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you just advertise it as a talent versus talent, and you say these people are representing their certain places, then it's cool. ROW is doing that this weekend too, right? Either this weekend or next weekend or something, where they've put on their flyer like Exodus Prime representing MPX
Right.
versus Ryan Davidson. That's cool. That's the kind of stuff that you want to see as somebody who attends MPX, as somebody who wrestles for MPX. You want to see that the MPX guys are getting to a place where WWE is now putting their branding on it. Booker's
Yeah.
place is WWE ID, and now
Yeah.
it's featuring MPX. Kaimi, what a shot for that kid. Kaimi is a truly special person who I think has the look and the makeup and the skill and the presentation for TV. I think he absolutely gets the idea of playing to the smallest person,
Yep.
and I think he's going places too.
Yep.
He's got such a personality, and he's going to be involved in that ROW and the breakout thing too. So really happy for him.
Me too. He's a good guy. I love him. I love him. Last question before we get into some fun stuff.
Okay.
This weekend you have Ascension.
Yep.
Speak on the matches, man. What we got coming down the pipeline?
Man, there are some crazy advertised matches here. There's a lot of grudge matches coming up, which I think this is a great one for people that have been following storylines at MPX, right? Right off of the bat, I think one of the first matches that was announced was Michael Schaefer, the Big Kahuna, going up against Paulie Paparazzi for the Addicts Championship. And you have Michael Schaefer, who was out of action for a year. Paulie Paparazzi's best friend at the time, right? And then Schaefer went out. He went to Hollywood. That didn't quite work out. So now he's come back, but then he turned his back on Paulie Paparazzi and is now joined up with House Sagan. And Paulie's pissed. And so here's this culmination of the bad blood between these guys for the Addicts Championship. You've also got Tatum Manning and Adam Green taking on Tony Snow's new monsters, Hester and Hostage Hirsch. And I think that's Tony Snow finally can say that he's had some tag team success after leading KOA to the tag team championships, and now he's got two people that are like bigger and badder in that regard. And that's going to be a tough mountain to overcome. But you've got I'm sorry, not Tatum. It's Adam. That was at the last show. It's Adam Green and Kate. Sorry, Haster's had his problems with Adam Green, and so with Tony Snow taking out Adam Green, Green needs to find a partner, and of course you've got the brilliant one to Lynn Cavens there. So that's going to be a really dynamic and epic tag team match. Good clash of styles there too.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think the match that I'm looking forward to the most is Langley versus Dalton Gray. So grimy Dalton Gray, who recently joined the Scorn, actually trained with Langley in the kids' camps, right? He came up, you see Langley's mom posting these pictures of Dalton and Langley growing up. And of course, growing up for them is like a couple of years ago. But, you see that months ago, and this may have been lost in the storyline, a couple of months ago in a pre-show match, Dalton Gray was getting beaten down by Riley Grin in a pre-show, and Langley was the one that came out to save him, which is great. That's a good story, right? Two friends and all that. Now you've got Dalton Gray throwing his hat in with the Scorn, who I'm upset at them because they were my kid's favorite wrestlers, the Scorn. And then for them to turn their backs on his teacher, Sky, and put him through that's a really touchy subject for me too, because not a big fan of the Scorn, not a big fan of how they talk to my son when he's at the shows and how they talk down to him. And they got to be careful to not cross that line, because I don't know if I still got it, but I still have the fury of a dad, right?
Absolutely.
So I got off track there, but yeah, so you've got Dalton Gray, who's joined up with the Scorn, and Langley going to be going at it in a grudge match. And you saw last week where Langley cracked the kendo stick over Dalton Gray's back, broke the kendo stick. What a great moment too, and that got a huge reaction as well. So it's going to be a really good weekend. I'm excited for MPX. Also Trent Mercer is going to be back, and Trent Mercer, I like him a lot. Good kid, good talent. Really love seeing him in there. He respects the business, respects everything about him, and he's going to be taking on Matthew Palmer. I haven't seen Palmer since. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Palmer's going to be in the ring. I haven't seen Palmer in the ring since Revolver, but like up close and personal in an MPX ring, I haven't seen him since I was a wrestler. So that's a truly special match for people to see. To see Matthew Palmer in an MPX ring again is going to be a fantastic thing.
Absolutely. Shout out to Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome guy. But yeah, man. So Ascension this Saturday.
Yep.
Doors open. Are you guys doing the early thing again?
Yep. Early access. And oh man, that's a beautiful thing. I love that. For a while there, we were doing pre-show matches, which I think is great, and I think it's a good way to get people to see what the training camp is about, because we do offer training classes. Right. And so to see the up-and-comers, people that are undertaking these this learning to get into a professional wrestling ring, to see how they've progressed and to see what they're working on, I think this is a great opportunity for them to do so. And plus, it gets you in front of a live crowd. It might only be 15 to 20 people to start out with, but you got to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I thought that's a pretty cool concept. Get in early and you get to see some up and comers starting their journey, and
almost a little pulling back the curtain, a little behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think that makes it special.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept. It really is. So yeah, doors open at 7:15, right?
If you buy the early access pass, then yes, doors open at
7:15.
7:15. Doors
Yep.
open to the general public at 7:30. Show starts at 8.
Yep. So make sure go to metroplexwrestling.com.
MPXWrestling.com.
MPX Wrestling, sorry,
Yep.
MPXWrestling.com, and get your tickets there, man. So
Yes, please.
yep. So let's get into some fun stuff.
Okay, I'm
Normally
scared.
during don't be scared. So
Okay.
when I have guests on, there's a game I play called Either Or. And
Okay.
normally I listen during the interview and I picked
Mm-hmm.
up on one thing, and I want to know how versed you are in
Oh
comics.
boy. Okay.
So I'm gonna say some characters. You say
Okay.
either or for
Okay.
whatever reason. But I'm gonna start with the general. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Okay.
Without
Cool.
hesitation.
Okay. Cool.
I like that Marvel characters are ordinary people that get put into extraordinary situations.
Absolutely.
The DC characters are extraordinary for reasons that you don't necessarily know of immediately.
Yep.
Their origin stories aren't as fun because they're like Superman. I know that's almost an orphan story, right? Coming from a
Right.
planet, but he's already a superpowered person. Bruce
Yep.
Wayne was already rich. And yes, that's an unimaginable tragedy losing your parents, but you're already rich.
You're already rich, bro.
So that's why I like it.
All right,
That's why I like
cool. Good answer. Good answer. I like it. So Marvel or DC. All right. Now let's get into the fun stuff.
Mm.
Thor or Black Panther?
Man, that's tough because that's almost honestly that's very DC like. Here's these two here's these two characters that already have their flowers, so to speak, right?
Yep.
Thor's a demigod, and Black Panther was already born into royalty. I like the culture and the heritage behind Black Panther a bit more. I follow along the story of Black Panther a lot better than I do Thor, although I do enjoy the idea behind mythology, and I read it a lot growing up as a kid. But I just think the atmosphere around Black Panther and kind of the vibe around Black Panther is just a lot more modern, hip, and cool, and it's a lot more fun to follow. Yeah,
I get that. I get that a little bit. A little bit. Me, I probably would have said Thor.
Yeah, I figured you would have, just based on how you reacted to my answer.
I probably would have said Thor. Really, really. All right. Jean Grey or Professor X?
Jeez. Both telepaths, both leadership qualities. I'll go with Jean Grey. Jean Grey, who I don't know, they both endured some pretty awful trauma with family members and stuff. But I go with Jean Grey just because of the Phoenix character and that entire storyline and how that follows out. I like that storyline a lot better. I know Professor X has the onslaught deal and losing his mobility in the Savage Lands, which is also a terrible thing. But I think the idea of the Phoenix character plus Madeline Pryor plus Cable being thrown in there as kind of traumatic events, along with Mr. Sinister, like that's just a lot of beat down for Jean Grey, and I'm always a fan of somebody that can overcome and persevere through all of that.
Okay, I like it. I like it. All right, next one, Elektra or Gamora?
Elektra, and I say, yeah, I know it's controversial. So I say Elektra, and this is probably a more controversial take than the fact that I just chose Elektra. I liked Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Really?
I know, and yeah, I know. I think it's because it was cheesy for all the wrong reasons, and it's just one of those things where you're like, man, this is so bad, but it's also kind of cool. I like the way they presented Daredevil. I don't necessarily like the way they presented Matt Murdock, but I like the way they presented Daredevil in that. And the Elektra character in that was fun and led to better parts for Elektra. Maybe that movie wasn't it, but you see what happened in Deadpool and Wolverine and how she became a cult favorite just by appearing in the movie. They're like, oh man, Elektra's back. That's cool. And it's like you only remember the good things about the character and not how awful everything was. You looked at her up there and you're like, oh man, that was a good character. And then if you go back and you watch that movie, you're like, okay, maybe not, but cool to see her anyways.
True. All right, last one.
Okay.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Or Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man. Yeah. 100% it's Spider-Man. I related and relate to Spider-Man in entirely too close of a way. Just the Peter Parker thing and being bullied and being kind of the outcast, and always wanting to be something more and always wanting to stick up for the guy that didn't have anybody to stick up for him. Because I was always that guy that never had anybody to stick up for him. So I always wanted to be the one to protect him. And Spider-Man's situation, Peter Parker's situation of like, man, I really didn't want these powers, but now that I have them, I have the ability to do something and I should probably do it. And that's kind of how I view things in my life as well. Like I know I have a good voice. I won't say that I'm like the best voice ever with a voice for a voiceover career, but like I know I've got a gift here and I know I should do something with it. And if I've got something like that and something that my son latches onto, okay, I should bring him to that. So it's just a sense of obligation and duty and knowing that the things that I'm good at, I should probably share. I heard on TikTok today something that was really profound to me. And it's always weird how like the most random TikToks end up being really profound, right? You never see an apple tree eat an apple. You don't see a pear tree eat a pear. You don't see a plum tree eat a plum. But that's because the fruit is not for the tree. It's for other people. Right? And so here I am, I've got these gifts and like maybe I don't necessarily believe in them, but like they help other people have a good time. They help other people enjoy their life, escape reality. I'm the ring announcer at MPX, and maybe I'm not the best one that has ever existed. We'll give that to Cody Cox, obviously. But like, I'm having fun. The other people are having fun, and I'm a part of them having fun with that. And I think that's a great thing, and I'm happy to continue to keep doing it.
That was deep.
Sometimes
deep. I like it. I like it. All right, man. Let the people know. Plug away. Some gratuitous plugging away. Go ahead. Let them.
Oh man! All right, a whole lot of gratuitous plugging away. So I'm a man of many talents. I also write about baseball for WFAA. You can find me on X or Twitter at Fisher Writes MLB. That's my shoot name. Don't tell anybody. But Fisher Writes MLB. That's where you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram because I used to be a beer blogger at Easily Bruised. That's Easily EASILY Bruised BREWSED. Because that's punny and funny. You can find me on Facebook at Matt Andrews. And you can find me on TikTok at The Choice Matt Andrews. I'll usually do pre-show things, like a little 45-second snippet before a show, just to clue people in on what's going on. And then I'll do an MPX minute, either a Monday or Tuesday after the show to let people know what happened.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Anything else you want to leave with the people?
Support the independent wrestlers, guys. And Absolutely. Also, if those independent wrestling companies have sponsors, support the sponsors. Because if you're supporting the sponsors, you're supporting the independent wrestling companies.
Absolutely.
And if you want to see them keep going, then you need to show the support however you can.
Absolutely. By the way, thank you guys for allowing us to sponsor you. That was...
Oh, no. Thank you. Truly. Really appreciate having the No Gimmicks podcast sponsor MPX. And this would be week 3 for you guys in a row, which super appreciative of it. So hope to see everybody out there. All the MPX addicts, go to mpxwrestling.com to come catch Ascension, presented by the No Gimmicks podcast.
Absolutely. And that'll do it for us here at No Gimmicks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, you guys be safe, enjoy each other, and peace.
And I know it's all business, all business, all business. We give them no gimmick. Yeah. And I know it's all business, all business, all business. We give them no gimmick. Yeah. And I know it's all business, all business, all business. We give them no gimmicks, gimmicks.